Hi there guys, welcome here again. In this episode, I want to talk about why virtual development environments are needed and when exactly we should use them. We are also going to install Vagrant, which is one of the softwares we can use for this. And we'll be creating environments for mini applications. Now I have to highlight that Vagrant is not a requirement and you can use any other software. You can develop locally or you can develop on your FTP server. That's up to you. If you don't want to use Vagrant, just skip to part 3. Now, web development has been around for a while, but the way we develop has changed a lot. Compare the way we do it now to when we just simply uploaded static HTML files to an FTP server. The difference is huge. Since we have dynamic websites, we could call many of them web applications by the way, it would be very risky and unwise to do the same process and make changes directly on the production server. Of course, there are exceptions, and everyone should define their own depending on the project. For example, in my opinion, our mini applications would not necessarily need multiple environments, but let's do it for the video. A development environment contains anything that is required by a team for developing, debugging, and testing software. We can define multiple environments. We call these tiers. The number of tiers depends on many factors, but really on the kind of project itself. Now, the deployment architectures vary significantly. We can say that it is usually starting at development and ending at production. Normally, however, there are 3 tiers. The development, where the programmer usually checks the code if it runs successfully. Then it is moved to staging, where the code is tested for reliability. It is then deployed to production, which is the live environment, of course. We talked about that developing on the production server could potentially cause damage, and this is one of the reasons we should use Vagrant or any other virtual development environment softwares. The other reason is that projects usually require different environments, and it is not too logical to have a computer for each project we're working on. The third reason is that each programmer could have their local working environment with all the requirements without disturbance and potentially overriding each other's code. Of course, there are many other reasons as well, but I want to make sure that this tutorial is not too long, so we won't be able to cover that. We are also going to use Git and create branches accordingly. The project is also going to be published on GitHub for you to check it out. I think I've talked enough and we can get started here. In order to use Vagrant, you have to get Virtualbox. Head over to virtualbox.org and download the appropriate binary file for your operating system. After installing Virtualbox, you have to go back to vagrantapp.com and download Vagrant. All of these softwares have easy-to-use visual installers, so I hope you won't have trouble with them. Once you've got these softwares installed, open up your terminal and check if Vagrant has been installed successfully with the following command. That's V for version. We're going to use a pre-configured virtual server box. This is called Homestead, and it is made by Laravel. This has all the dependencies that we will need to run our project. In order to use Homestead, we will have to add the Homestead Vagrant Box with the following command, which is vagrantbox add laravel/homestead. This may take a while depending on your connection. You can always check out their documentation on laravel.com if you get stuck, but let's execute this command. Now that we have the Homestead box downloaded, we have 2 options. We can either install Homestead globally, and for that just follow the official documentation. Or we can install Homestead for our project. And I want to do that because I want to ship the Vagrant file with the project, so you guys could just clone the GitHub repo and fire up Vagrant. Let's clear the terminal and create an empty directory for our project. This will be consuming web services or consuming RESTFUL web services. RESTFUL web services. Yep. And we are going to install Homestead directly into our project. And we will require it using Composer. So Composer require and Laravel Homestead and dev. Yep. This might take a while. Once it's done, we check whether it has been installed, and yeah, it installed all the files. However, we're still missing the Vagrant file and the Homestead YAML. In order to generate these files, we will have to run the make command. So php vendor bin homestead and make. And Homestead installed. Okay, let's just check the files, and it's all there. If we have a look at the Homestead YAML file, we will see that it also configured the sites and the folders directives. All we have to do is edit our hosts file. So let's just close this, open up our host file. Host. Okay, so we will have to add the following entry: 192, 168, 1010, and homestead.app. Let's just save this one as well. I think we've finished here, but before we go, we should test our virtual server. Because we only have Homestead installed, we don't have a public directory. Let's just create one, which we can delete after the test. So we're creating a public directory, and in that public directory, we should create a file and add something to the file. For example, say hello. And then we can save this. Let's clear the terminal. And we should fire up Vagrant before we do the test. We can do that by using the Vagrant up command. It might going to ask your password. Once it is done, we can proceed with our test. If we open homestead.app, we should be able to see the content of that file. As you can see, it's working fine. We can delete the public directory now because we don't need it. Alright. So, I hope you enjoyed this episode. If you have any questions, just leave your comments below. Stay tuned for the rest of the videos and don't forget to subscribe. Thanks.